You know, we follow rules all day, every day. At school, in games, at home. But have you ever stopped to think about where the whole idea of having one single official rule book for an entire country even came from? Well, to figure that out, we've got to travel way back in time to meet a Roman emperor whose ideas are, believe it or not, still affecting your life today.
I'm guessing we all have at some point. You know, when a rule just feels totally random, or it doesn't seem to apply to everyone the same way. Now imagine that exact feeling but for an entire empire. That was the huge problem people were dealing with in ancient Rome about 1500 years ago. Seriously, before the 6th century, the Roman Empire's laws were just a complete and utter mess. Think of it like trying to play a game where the rules are a jumble of old traditions nobody remembers, calls from referees who retired centuries ago, and totally different rules depending on which city you're in. It was confusing, and getting a fair decision, almost impossible.
This really shows you the incredible shift. The whole system went from being chaotic and totally unpredictable to something that was organized, clear, and, this is the big part, the same for everyone. So who could possibly be powerful enough to pull off a change this massive?
Well, let's meet Emperor Justinian. He took one look at this legal disaster and basically said, okay, I'm going to be the one to fix this. He had this amazing vision to create a single, clear, and fair set of laws that would apply to his entire sprawling empire.
And this was his core belief, right here. He argued that a strong, stable empire couldn't just run on the random decisions of whatever leader was in charge that day. No, it needed a solid foundation of clear, written laws that everyone, from the emperor himself all the way down to a farmer, had to follow.
His plan was just unbelievably ambitious. First, he put together a dream team of the smartest legal experts he could find. Their job was to dive into centuries of old laws, toss out everything that was outdated or repetitive, and then organize all the good stuff into one giant logical master rulebook.
So the final result was called the body of civil law, but today, people often just call it the Codex. And you can think of it as the ultimate instruction manual for a society. It was a rulebook that covered pretty much everything, from huge business deals to really personal family matters.
So, how exactly does a rulebook help build a stable society? Well, it all starts with one of the most important ideas there is, protecting the things that you own. Now, this idea of private property might seem obvious to us, but back then it was revolutionary. It meant that if something is yours, your house, your tools, whatever, the law officially protects it. Before the Codex, the strongest person could often just take what they wanted. This new rule was designed to put a stop to all that chaos. The Codex got really specific. If you owned a house, you had a legal document to prove it. If you wanted to sell something, you used a formal contract, and if there was any kind of disagreement, you could take it to court. This legal safety net made people feel secure enough to actually invest in their farms and businesses, which, you guessed it, helped the whole economy grow. But the law didn't just stop with business and property. It also stepped inside people's homes to provide a clear and stable structure for family life itself. The Codex laid out clear rules for marriage, what parents owed their kids, and how property should be passed down through generations. If a family had a big fight over a will, a judge could just open up the Codex and find a fair, predictable solution. It probably stopped a ton of arguments before they even started, and just made family life a lot more stable. Okay, so for a gigantic empire with trade routes stretching for thousands of miles, you absolutely needed a system to make sure that a deal was a deal. And the secret weapon for that was the contract. See, a contract is way more than just a simple promise. It's a promise that the law will actually enforce. If someone broke their side of the bargain, the Codex gave you the power to haul them into court and demand justice. This whole system was a total game changer. It made trade between faraway cities so much safer because merchants knew their agreements would be backed up by the law no matter where they were. It cut down on cheating and built this foundation of trust that really powered the entire Roman economy.
All right, so we've got all these new, super organized rules. But how did they actually work in real life? Let's take a look at how the justice system itself was completely transformed. The old way of doing things was often brutal and totally random. But under this new justice system, you couldn't just punish someone without any proof. You had to have a fair trial, and the punishment was supposed to actually fit the crime. This was a huge leap forward for fairness. The process became straightforward and logical. In a courtroom, a trained judge would listen to both sides of the story, look carefully at all the evidence, and then they'd literally consult the Codex to find the specific rule that applied to that case. The final decision was based on the written law, not just on the judge's personal feelings or mood that day.
Now, Justinian was smart. He knew that this amazing legal system would just fall apart if nobody knew how to use it. So he came up with a plan to make sure all this knowledge would survive for a long, long time.
He had a special textbook created called The Institutes, designed specifically for training new students. For the first time, people could actually go to school for years to become professional lawyers. This created a whole new class of experts who could help regular citizens and make sure the legal system would last long after Justinian himself was gone.
Look, this all happened a very long time ago. So why are we even talking about it? Well, it's because the ideas packed into that ancient rulebook traveled through time and landed right in our own legal systems.
You can literally trace the journey of these ideas through history. From the Roman Empire, they were studied and copied all through the Middle Ages, and then when modern countries like France and Germany started writing their own legal codes, they looked directly back at Justinian's work as their main inspiration.
So, the big takeaway here is that so many of the core principles we rely on in our legal systems today come straight from the Codex. The right to a fair trial with evidence, the basic rules of contracts, the idea of private property, and even the simple concept that there should be one clear law for everyone, that is all part of Justinian's incredible legacy.
So from one ancient emperor's quest for order, we got the foundation for modern justice. It really makes you think, doesn't it? If you were creating a brand new rulebook for society today, what would be your #1 absolutely essential rule to make sure things were fair for everybody?